Sonic has had many rivals over the years: Shadow, Metal Sonic, Knuckles, but only one character has ever truly beaten Sonic at his own game. Not in strength, not in Riz, but in raw speed. And yet for over a decade, Sega acted like he didn't exist. They left him in the dust, a fan favorite cast aside and forgotten. Until now. After 15 years, Jet the Hawk is finally back. The legendary Windmaster, who could actually outrace Sonic given the right conditions. His return in a new game isn't just a nostalgia grab, it's proof that Sega recognizes the fans and what made previous Sonic Racing entries special, as Crossworlds promises to be the peak of the franchise. But how did we get here? How did Jet go from Sonic's fastest rival to seemingly abandoned, and is his return really such a big deal? To answer that, we need to go back to the success of Sonic Riders and the fall of an entire series that almost erased Jet from history. In 2006, Sega was in a wild experimental phase. The Sonic franchise was trying all kinds of new things. Some good, some not so much. But in the middle of all this chaos, a new breed of Sonic rivals appeared. The Babylon Rogues, a trio of sky pirates led by Jet the Hawk. A rival different from any other Sonic faced before. He wasn't a guardian. He wasn't a robot. He was a racer, and not just any racer. When it came to competing with the futuristic hoverboards called Extreme Gear, Jet was the best, and poor Sonic didn't stand a chance. For once, Sonic wasn't the instant best at something. Jet could easily beat him, and the Blue Blur had to take the L and train himself in an all-new style of racing. He was not comfortable anymore, and that made their rivalry feel real. Unlike Shadow, who was dark and edgy, or Metal, who was cold and calculating, Jet had swag. He was arrogant to a fault and obsessed with being the fastest. The kind of rival who would trash talk you before the race, cheat if he had to, but still demand a fair rematch because his pride wouldn't allow an unfair victory. He wasn't evil, he was just that competitive. And this purely personal kind of rivalry, with no world-ending stakes, made him feel fresh and unique. His teammates, like Wave the Swallow, the brains of their operations, mirrored Tails. And Storm the Albatross, the muscle of the team, mirrored Knuckles. They were Team Sonic's ultimate racing rivals. And it worked, because Sonic Riders, that game was legendary. Riders wasn't just another spin-off. It was one of the coolest and most skill-based Sonic games ever made. Instead of standard vehicles, the game threw Sonic and his rivals onto Extreme Gear. Hoverboards that made speed a skill rather than something automatic. Sonic Riders didn't play like Mario Kart. The game had much more depth. You had to manage air reserves, master drifting, use the wind turbulence of other racers to slingshot ahead, and land tricks perfectly to keep your momentum. And the best part? The speed was insane. When you nailed a perfect boost, when you grinded on a rail to take a shortcut, when you landed a huge jump with a trick combo, Sonic Riders made you feel unstoppable. It wasn't an easy game. You had to practice. You had to actually get good. But when you mastered it, damn. It was one of the most satisfying experiences. And the Babylon Rogues were at the center of it all. They were integral to the game's identity. Watching Sonic and Jet gradually develop a mutual respect for each other was very memorable. Sonic Riders was a hit. It sold well. Fans loved it. The art style, the soundtrack, the incredible anime opening, the competitive gameplay, everything clicked. Sega had a winning formula on their hands. And then they threw it all away.
You know what? Today, I am going to return this open copy of Sonic Free Riders because it's broken. Broken!
The first Sonic Riders was a success. The second game, Zero Gravity, simplified the mechanics, making it more accessible but losing some of its depth. And then came Sonic Free Riders. In 2010, Sega released Sonic Free Riders as an exclusive for the Xbox Kinect. This was back when gaming companies were obsessed with motion controls. You had to physically move your body to control the game. No controllers, no buttons, just you, flailing around like an idiot, hoping the game would register your movements. It was a complete disaster. The gameplay barely worked. The menus were unresponsive. The game would constantly misread your inputs. The actual racing felt unplayable, with jumps that failed for no reason, and mechanics that actively made the game frustrating to play. Sonic Free Riders was so universally hated that it killed the Riders series entirely. And with that, Jet, Wave, and Storm, characters that had so much potential, vanished. For over a decade, the Babylon Rogues were completely forgotten. No major game appearances, no Riders sequel, nothing. Apart from comic appearances, it seemed like Jet the Hawk was gone for good. Until now. After 15 years, the legendary Windmaster is finally back in the games. And it's not just some throwaway cameo. Sonic Racing Crossworlds is more than just a Sonic Racer game. It is a statement. At first, fans weren't sure what to expect. Another Sonic Racing game? After Team Sonic Racing failed to live up to its predecessors, people were skeptical. Would this just be another rushed project? Another safe entry that reused old assets and was a downgrade from previous Sonic Racing games? And then, the trailer dropped, and there it was. Extreme Gear is back as a playable vehicle, and Jet, Wave, and Storm have all returned as playable characters. Sonic Riders is finally being acknowledged, but Crossworlds isn't just bringing back riders, it's mixing together the best elements of every Sonic Racing game before it. The game revives the transforming vehicles from Sonic and Sega All-Stars Racing Transform, meaning racers will seamlessly switch between land, sea, and air mid-race. It hugely expands the vehicle customization seen in Team Sonic Racing, from wheels to handling, to even their aesthetic design. And the biggest change, the Crossworlds system. Instead of static tracks, every race takes place across multiple locations, linked together through giant teleportation rings. At the end of each lap, the lead racer gets to decide where the race goes next, meaning every single race plays out differently. And just when you think you've got the track memorized, the final lap flips the course on its head. Gates open to hidden shortcuts, new hazards appear, and sections of the map transform in real time. The most exciting part? We still don't know just how deep the return of Jet and Extreme Gear goes. Jet has a prominent spot in the game's official cover, meaning he and Extreme Gear will have great importance in the game. He being a headlining character again is insane after more than a decade of irrelevance. Sonic is also seen racing with Extreme Gear, meaning it will likely be available for all characters. The speculation is running wild. Will Extreme Gear be an alternative racing style, offering a high-risk, high-reward way to win? Will it have separate physics and mechanics, rewarding players who master it? Will it be a choice of vehicle before the races? Or function as a mid-lap transformation, switching controls dynamically? Will it have its own distinct controls, offering a faster, more skill-based alternative to standard cars? Or will it just be more of a visual change? Does the player choose to use Extreme Gear before the start of the race, or will it be a form of vehicle transformation during the laps? Sega hasn't revealed all the details yet, but the fact that we're even asking these questions, that alone is a huge victory for Riders fans. After 15 years, Jet the Hawk is finally back in the spotlight of the games. His legacy, once buried under failed sequels and corporate neglect, has been resurrected. The Babylon Rogues aren't just a distant memory anymore. They're here and they're back in the race. And now there's only one question left. Could this be just the beginning? Because, let's be real, if Sega is willing to bring back Jet, Extreme Gear, and the Riders mechanics in Crossworlds, then what's stopping them from finally making a true Sonic Riders 4? This isn't just a character return. This may be a full-blown franchise revival. And if you don't subscribe right now, Jet himself will show up at your house, challenge you to a race, and laugh in your face when you lose. Save yourself the humiliation. Hit that button